What if I told you that the most powerful man in the world right now isn't a president, a general, or a billionaire, but a quiet engineer carrying a green backpack, and inside that backpack, there are rumors of a device that can shut down the world's most advanced AI system in seconds? Sounds unbelievable, right? But this is the reality surrounding Sam Altman, the man building the technology that could either save humanity or erase it. Here's the part no one wants to say out loud. We are closer to losing control of AI than you think, and the only person standing in the middle of that future is someone who doesn't fear governments, doesn't fear companies, and doesn't even fear money, because he already walked away from billions. While you and I are living our normal lives, Sam Altman is building three things at the same time: a brain smarter than every human combined, a power source that steals energy from the sun, and a new economic system where your identity and your income depend on a metal sphere scanning your eye. If that sounds extreme, it is. And here's the twist. He's doing all of this because he believes most people on Earth will soon become economically useless. So the real question isn't, who is Sam Altman? The real question is, what happens to you if his prediction is right? Stay until the end. Because once you hear what he's building, you will never look at the future the same way again. The story begins in 1985 in Chicago, but the environment that truly shaped who Sam Altman would become was the quiet suburb of St. Louis, Missouri. It was a place surrounded by endless cornfields and steeped in the conservative religious values of 1990s America. Growing up as the eldest child in an educated Jewish family, his mother a dermatologist and his father involved in real estate, Sam displayed an intelligence so striking it bordered on intimidating. Yet it came with a deep and constant sense of loneliness. On his 8th birthday, while other children his age were dreaming of bicycles or superhero toys, Sam received a gift that would define the rest of his life: an Apple Macintosh computer. To him, this machine wasn't just a toy, it was a lifeline. Growing up in the American Midwest during the early 2000s, coming to terms with his identity as a gay kid felt like driving the wrong way down a highway. Society around him simply wasn't ready to accept that difference. Sam withdrew inward, and the early AOL chat rooms became the only place where he could feel like himself. The Macintosh taught him the first and most important lesson of his life: if the real world refuses to accept you, you can always build another one inside a computer, one where you are in control. At 17, Sam carried out an act that shocked everyone at the prestigious John Burroughs School. It would later foreshadow the iron fist in a velvet glove leadership style he became known for. When a group of students and parents organized a boycott against a speaker who had been invited to discuss gender and sexuality, Sam refused to stay silent or engage in futile arguments. Instead, he chose to change the system itself. During a school-wide assembly, he stood before hundreds of people and publicly came out, stating bluntly that growing up gay in that community was anything but pleasant. But he didn't stop with a public declaration. Working behind the scenes, he persuaded teachers to put up safe space signs in their classrooms. This deliberate Itagaki strategic action demonstrated that Sam wasn't simply demanding acceptance, he was restructuring the school's infrastructure to ensure acceptance would follow. As the headmaster later admitted, that one student single-handedly changed the culture of the entire institution. It was the moment Sam realized that real power comes not from asking for permission, but from rewriting the rules of the game. In 2003, Sam entered the prestigious halls of Stanford University. However, instead of immersing himself in textbooks and lectures like most students, he devoted the majority of his time to the game of poker. For ordinary people, poker might simply be gambling. But for Sam, it became an intensive crash course in human psychology and risk management. It was on this battlefield of strategy and probability that he learned a principle he would later apply to every major investment decision of his life: when you see a chance to win big, no matter how high the risk is, you bet everything. This bold personality trait surfaced clearly after just 2 years at Stanford. In 2005, Sam made the shocking decision to drop out of one of the most prestigious universities in the world to join the rising wave of tech startups. His first company was called Loopit, an application that allowed users to see where their friends were on a map, an idea far ahead of its time. More than a decade before, similar features became standard on social media platforms. Although Loop didn't explode like Facebook, mainly because users in that era were still wary of privacy issues and technology limitations, Sam worked so intensely that it pushed him to the brink of physical exhaustion. In 2012, he sold Loop for more than $43 million. While this would be an immense fortune for any 27-year-old, in Silicon Valley terms, It was considered a failure because the company never became a billion-dollar giant, and it had previously raised $30 million from top venture funds like Sequoia Capital and New Enterprise Associates. However, the most valuable thing Sam gained was not money. It was the attention of Paul Graham, the godfather of the startup world and the founder of the legendary accelerator Y Combinator. Graham recognized in Sam an exceptionally rare leadership quality and once made a famous remark: "If you drop Sam on an island full of cannibals and return 5 years later, he'll be the king of that island." To understand the fierce and almost extreme leadership style Sam Altman would later display, we must examine the period in which he assumed the throne at Y Combinator, commonly known as YC. In 2014, at just 28 years old, Sam became the president of the most prestigious startup accelerator on the planet. Once he took control, he immediately began reshaping YC's image. No longer would it be seen merely as a summer camp for messaging apps and food delivery startups. Sam believed that all the low-hanging fruit of the software world had already been picked clean, and that the future belonged to hard-tech ambitious, highly technical ventures in the physical sciences. He presented a controversial yet compelling argument: starting a hard startup is actually easier than starting an easy one. In his view, the world's best engineers were tired of optimizing Facebook's like button and similar trivialities. If a founder declared that they were building a fusion reactor or a supersonic aircraft, they would immediately have no competitors and would attract the brightest minds craving a monumental mission. To prove his vision, Sam personally directed investments into some of the boldest, most audacious bets YC had ever made. He supported Boom Supersonic's efforts to bring supersonic flight back to the skies and, most significantly, Helion Energy, the company pursuing the dream of limitless fusion energy. To Sam, nuclear fusion and artificial intelligence were two sides of the same coin, one providing infinite intelligence and the other providing infinite energy to power that intelligence. These moves created deep, quiet fractures with YC's more conservative faction, who were accustomed to the safer financial markers of traditional software companies. During this era, Sam also built a powerful underground network through a legendary class at Stanford, CAS 183B. Brian Chesky, CEO of Airbnb, recounted in that class the early struggles of going door to door in New York to photograph apartments, a story that reinforced the philosophy Sam often preached: do things that don't scale. His relationships with founders became so strong that, years later, when Sam was fired from OpenAI, it was Chesky who served as the chief strategist and negotiator to help bring him back to power. Another key ally was Patrick Collison of Stripe, who shared Sam's obsession with the stagnation of large organizations. The famous anecdote of Patrick setting up an alert for customer messages at 300A became a foundational lesson in the kind of devotion Sam expected from young founders. Sam was not satisfied with YC's influence being limited to the United States. He envisioned YC as a global empire. He spent years recruiting the legendary tech executive Qi Lu, formerly a senior leader at Microsoft and Baidu, to serve as CEO of YC China. The goal was to create a bridge linking the two sides of the Pacific. But this grand vision was crushed by the relentless machinery of geopolitics when the U.S.-China trade war escalated, forcing YC China to shut down after just over a year. In 2019, the world learned that Sam was leaving YC to focus fully on OpenAI. The media portrayed it as a peaceful transition, but the truth was far darker. Later reports revealed that Paul Graham had either fired Sam or forced him to resign. The conflict stemmed from Sam's creation of his personal investment fund, Hydrazine Capital, which many accused of leveraging his YC position to cherry-pick the most promising startups for his private portfolio. Furthermore, as OpenAI increasingly consumed Sam's time and focus, he became an absentee king, devoting most of his energy and resources to building his new company. Faced with this situation, the same Paul Graham who once saw Sam as a spiritual son flew from England to the United States to personally bring an end to Sam's reign at YC, attempting to preserve the integrity of the institution. After leaving Y Combinator, Sam Altman poured all his energy into the biggest bet of his life, OpenAI. The origin story of OpenAI begins at a secret dinner held in July 2015 at the luxurious Rosewood Hotel on Sand Hill Road. The attendees were some of the most exceptional minds in technology: Elon Musk, Greg Brockman, and Ilya Sutskever. What they discussed was not profit, but the survival of humanity. Both Sam and Elon shared a deep, almost obsessive belief that artificial general intelligence, AGI, was approaching rapidly. And their worst nightmare was that it would fall under the control of a monopoly like Google without any safety oversight. To counter Google, they needed a strategic weapon, and that weapon was Ilya Sutskever. The recruitment of Ilya was nothing short of a high-stakes heist. Elon Musk personally intervened, appealing to Ilya's pride and his idealistic desire for academic freedom. When Ilya finally agreed to join OpenAI, it sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley. Larry Page, then CEO of Google and a longtime friend of Musk, felt deeply betrayed and ended his relationship with Elon. However, OpenAI's original nonprofit idealist vision soon collided with economic reality. By 2018, the organization was falling behind. Musk grew impatient and proposed merging OpenAI with Tesla. Sam fiercely opposed the idea, leading to a bitter split. Musk left, taking with him an unfulfilled $1 billion funding promise. He had only invested about $100 million, leaving OpenAI in a financial crisis, facing collapse. Sam executed one of the most consequential pivots in tech history. In 2019, he restructured OpenAI into a capped profit company. It was at this moment that Sam made a shocking move that stunned both Wall Street and Silicon Valley. He refused to take any equity. Even as OpenAI's valuation began soaring into the tens of billions of dollars, this decision meant turning down a massive personal fortune. When questioned about it, Sam casually replied, "I have enough money. I'm doing this because I love it." But behind this act of noble self-denial was a far more calculated play for power. As one veteran investor remarked, "You cannot bribe a man who does not need money, and you cannot control him." By not owning equity, Sam transformed himself into an uncrowned king, someone perceived as ethically untouchable by the public and by powerful partners like Microsoft. His apparent lack of personal financial motive became the perfect armor, shielding him from criticism while allowing him to consolidate power. Because if a person is not pursuing wealth, then the only thing left for them to pursue is influence, the power to reshape the world according to their own vision. This dynamic is what allowed Sam to convince Satya Nadella of Microsoft to invest the first $1 billion. Despite Bill Gates warning that the venture would be a massive money sink, years later, in 2025, Sam admitted that refusing equity had been a mistake because it fueled endless conspiracy theories, prompting him to consider accepting a 7% stake. Only then did people realize that Sam Altman was not a saint. He was a seasoned poker player who changed strategies whenever the game changed. By late 2022, OpenAI released ChatGPT, the product that exploded into global consciousness. It reached 100 million users in just 2 months, a Sputnik moment for the AI era, triggering a code red panic inside Google. But as OpenAI reached the peak of its glory, deep fractures within the organization became visible. Tensions between the accelerationist faction, led by Sam, and the safety-focused faction represented by Ilya Sutskever, and the board of directors escalated dramatically. The breaking point came when Sam attempted to remove board member Helen Toner after she publicly criticized OpenAI. The move backfired. The board received reports accusing Sam of psychological manipulation and creating internal division. On November 17, 2023, Sam was abruptly fired via Google Meet. But the coup plotters vastly underestimated Sam's political instincts. Microsoft was furious. Investors applied relentless pressure. And most importantly, over 700 OpenAI employees rose up in open revolt, in one of the most dramatic twists in tech history. Ilya Sutskever, the architect of the coup, regretted his decision and switched sides to support Sam. After 5 days in exile, Sam returned to reclaim his throne. The old board was ousted, marking the complete defeat of the opposition faction. After reclaiming his throne at OpenAI in late 2023, Sam Altman was no longer just a tech CEO. He had transformed into a grand architect, someone attempting to redesign the physical and social infrastructure of human civilization itself. In Sam's worldview, an AI brain is useless without a strong body to contain it and an infinite energy source to fuel it. For that reason, he quietly constructed an immense power triangle built upon 3 pillars: intelligence, energy, and life. The first pillar, Stargate, the ambition to dominate the skies of intelligence through OpenAI. Sam had already created the most intelligent software in history, but he quickly realized a physical limitation there. Simply were not enough computers on Earth to run it. By 2025, his ambitions moved beyond lines of code and into the realm of concrete and steel. At the White House, the Stargate project was unveiled, a $500 billion joint venture involving OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and MGX. This wasn't just about constructing data centers. It was about building enormous computation cities across Texas, Ohio, and New Mexico, massive calculation hubs designed to guarantee that the United States would maintain absolute dominance in the AGI race against China. To prepare the legal pathway for this mega project, Sam executed a bold corporate maneuver in October 2025 by converting OpenAI from a capped profit structure into a public benefit corporation PBC. This move stripped the nonprofit board of its absolute control, which now dropped to just 26%, and opened the floodgates for trillions of dollars in Wall Street capital to pour into Stargate. Sam publicly declared that, in the future, computational power would become humanity's new currency, more valuable than gold or oil, the second pillar, stealing the sun's fire, Helian energy. But Stargate's computational cities would consume staggering amounts of electricity. Sam understood that relying solely on wind or solar power would doom the AGI dream or lead to catastrophic environmental damage. What he needed was a divine energy source, nuclear fusion. Unlike the fission reactors used today, which produce radioactive waste, fusion replicates the process that powers the sun. It is clean, safe, and effectively limitless. In 2021, Sam placed a monumental personal bet. He invested $375 million, most of his liquid net worth at the time, into Helian energy. This wasn't a portfolio investment. It was a life or death gamble. Helian later signed a contract to supply electricity to Microsoft starting in 2028. If successful, Sam would possess the key to driving humanity's energy costs towards zero, turning his long-held vision of abundance into reality. The third pillar, redefining humanity, retro biosciences, and WorldCoin. If OpenAI's machines perform all labor and Helion makes energy nearly free, what will be humanity's role? Sam has been preparing for this post-labor scenario through two of his most controversial projects. The first is retro biosciences. Sam has no desire to build a paradise only for humans to live in it for 70 years and die. He invested $180 million into retro, with one bold objective to reprogram cells and extend healthy human life by an additional 10 years. He believes AI will decode biological mysteries faster than any doctor, transforming death from an inevitability into a treatable condition. The second project is WorldCoin, now simply known as World. To understand why Sam pursued this, we must look at his core philosophy. In his 2021 essay, Moore's Law for Everything, he made a brutally honest prediction AI would surpass the capabilities of the average human. In his eyes, the economic value of most human labor would become meaningless compared to machines. He did not say this to frighten people. It was, to him, a matter of physics, because he believed humanity would become economically obsolete. Sam aggressively advanced WorldCoin and Universal Basic Income UBI. His logic, though ruthless, carried a strange compassion. If machines strip you of the dignity of work, he would return that dignity in the form of free money. But to do that, he needed to know who was a real human and who was an AI-generated identity. Thus, the Orb, a metallic eye-scanning device, was created. Despite being criticized as digital colonialism and banned in countries such as Spain and Kenya due to privacy concerns, Sam remained adamant that this was essential infrastructure for the new era. Looking at these three pillars, it becomes clear that they do not exist independently. They interlock tightly within a master plan. Helion creates the energy to power OpenAI. OpenAI generates the intelligence to decode biology for retro and create wealth for WorldCoin. WorldCoin and retro ensure that humans survive and remain fulfilled in the machine-driven world. Sam is not merely running companies, he is attempting to rewrite humanity's social contract. He is a paradoxical figure, an introverted, awkward individual who is also a master political operator, a man who warns that AI could destroy humanity, yet is the one accelerating its development most aggressively. But one little known detail from his personal life perfectly explains this contradiction. Sam is a prepper. He has admitted to always keeping guns, gold, anti-radiation medicine, and Israeli military-grade gas masks at home. This is the great paradox of Sam Altman. He is building the AI god that could elevate humanity to paradise. Yet, in his backpack, he carries tools to survive hell. He is like a scientist creating a nuclear bomb hoping it will end all wars while secretly digging a bunker for himself. The image of Sam carrying his signature green backpack, rumored to contain a laptop capable of activating or shutting down OpenAI's servers, has become a modern symbol of the nuclear football. It reminds us that the architect of the new era is also the one who fears it the most. Will he be Prometheus, the titan who brought fire to mankind and freed them from darkness? Or will he be Icarus, who flew too close to the sun, melted his wings, and dragged all of humanity into the depths below? The answer is still being written in the lines of code powering ChatGPT and in the fusion reactors now being constructed. But one thing is certain, all of us are aboard the ship steered by Sam Altman. He hopes you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. If you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to explore more on the channel. He is someone who always searches for the things you are ready to hear. Goodbye, and see you next time.